Welcome to the Business Lounge. Now, my guest today certainly has a story to tell. Melvin Sadofsky is of MWS Group, and it's very good to see you, and thank you for sparing the time today. You've been in business for some time, and you started, how did it all start for you? Because we'll go on to talk about your life as a chartered accountant in a moment or two, but is that something that you started straight from school?
To be a chartered accountant, you have to pass examinations. So when I left school, I went to college for 1 year to do my exams, and then another 3 years in articles, following which I was qualified in 1971. But by 1972, I had the hankering to go out and do my own thing. So I started my practice in 1972.
Why accountancy, though? It's always been something that you wanted to do, by the sound of things.
Not particularly, because I'm not sure that anybody who says I want to be an accountant knows fully what it entails. And what I'm doing these days isn't what I did when I first started. So it was just general interest in business, I suspect.
What was it like when you started the business?
It was tough. I lived at home with my parents. I used to take £5 a week wages, which in 1972 was still not an awful lot of money. And I was just hopeful that people would send business to me. And everything that came along was recommendation.
Was it? I was going to ask you how you started, where your clients came from.
Just by recommendation, and people who I knew who would recommend people as well. So it's just a question of working and doing the job and pleasing people so that they will recommend you.
We seem to be in an era at the moment where entrepreneur is the in word, isn't it? That we have television programs likened to it, and various people we see on TV all over the place. Was there that level of entrepreneurial spirit when you started as an accountant?
Yes, I think there was, but it was different because taxation was different. The incentives were not necessarily there, but people were still interested in making capital gain, and capital gain has always been the best way to amass wealth.
How did you go about building the business if you have your clients? Was it literally about recommendation?
Yes, I made myself known to all of the local banks, and I asked my clients if they had friends who might be looking for an accountant. And gradually, through recommendation, one or two larger businesses came along, and the snowball started. I was lucky also that in 1974, a local accountant decided, he was only my age and I'd studied with him, but decided that he wanted to pass up his practice and go and do other things. And so he actually gave me his practice.
Really?
And I was able to build upon that, and there are still some of those clients who I represent today.
That must have been an amazing amount of luck.
It was indeed, yes. But I was there and I was in the forefront, therefore he came along. You
built the practice up and was doing the business for many, many years. I know you've sold that particular branch now, your particular practice now, and gone into other things. At what stage did you think, with your original practice, actually I'm doing quite well now? I can employ more people, I can start...
The most difficult thing to do is to take on the first employee.
Right.
And also, when you've got a small team, the most heartbreaking thing to happen to you is that one of them wants to leave. So I took on an employee early in the process, and we built up to about 5 or 6 members of the team. And at that point, I felt as though I had a business that I could take forward.
Yeah. Someone said to me that one of the few people that benefits from recessions are actually accountants. And you'll have seen a few recessions, obviously, since the mid-70s.
Probably 3.
Right.
Yes, I have, and possibly accountants do benefit. But of course, there are lots of different branches of accountancy, one of them being insolvency. And that's not something that I've ever become involved with. It's being a financial undertaker. It's one-off business, and it's probably taking advantage of people's misfortunes in a way. It has to be done, but that's where other accountants benefit. What we do find in a recession is that people need to find new ways of funding the businesses, and especially more recently, because previous recessions haven't involved the banks being in difficulties, whereas this last one was probably bank-driven. Therefore, we've had to help clients who had good businesses which needed additional funding in situations where the banks wouldn't help them, or in fact were a hindrance in some cases.
You went through the time with your business called Sadofsky's. Now, as I say, you started the MWS Group. At what stage did you want to leave one and start the other?
About 3 years before I did leave.
Right.
When the work was becoming a little bit mundane, there was too much of a volume of it, and I hadn't delegated it down into the business well enough. And my partners were probably hankering then to take over a lot more of it. And I felt it was an opportunity when they decided they wanted to buy me out for me to move on and do what I really did want to do, which was to invest in other businesses and to help people with businesses a lot more than I was able to with the time constraints.
And I've got the portfolio of the businesses that is involved or that are involved with the MWS Group. I mean, there are lots. There are what, 25 companies?
There are 25 companies, including small subsidiaries of some of the main ones, in quite a diverse approach, really. There are none that really synergise. However, having said that, they all do, because they all need stationery, they all need telephones, etc. And so we found that by having a diverse range of companies, they actually all work quite well together and they all help one another from time to time.
But was it a big leap from being a chartered accountant to investing in companies, looking at companies to see whether you personally had an interest in them?
I'd done it for other people. I'd advised other people on acquisitions and disposals.
But it's very different when you're having to write the cheque at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's like the difference between paying cash for a product and paying on your credit card. Yeah. One hurts and the other doesn't seem to too much. But yes, it does matter, and it makes a big difference when you're advising yourself.
Yeah. So how did you make that leap? What
it was gradual. There were opportunities that arose over a period of time. And as each one arose, I took it on board. We encompassed them under the MWS Group at the beginning of this century, rather than previously, where they were all independent companies.
But you're still an accountant. I mean, you still
very much so, yes. And we're finding that we're in demand right now as MWS, because we have access to funds for clients, and we have been helping lots of people who have had difficulties with the banks. But we've also helped them with the banks as well, because I hope and I think that we have a good reputation with all of the local banks anyway.
But I mean, it's an interesting synergy, isn't it, between the two? You know, on one step you're looking after people's finances, on the other, as far as the portfolio is concerned, you're looking after your own interests and
yes.
making sure those businesses grow.
Sure.
Is it easy to mix the two?
Well, there are 2 points really. One is that from my team point of view, the team at MWS Business Management, the accountancy practice, they're all helping me to run these businesses. Therefore, there is a spin-off for them in terms of experience that they're acquiring in running businesses. So that's a really important factor from my point of view. The other is that we treat all of our investment companies as clients. So we just deal with them on the same basis as we would anybody else who was a client. Obviously, we take a deeper interest because we have to, but that's the way we do it.
What drives you? What drives Melvin Sadofsky to continue to build?
Well, when you wake up in the morning and you're keen to go to the office, that's the enthusiasm, because you enjoy what you're doing. Unfortunately, and sadly for a lot of people in life, they're doing a job which they don't enjoy, but they're doing it for the end result, which is the money. Well, naturally, I do it for that too, but I enjoy what I'm doing. But
are you never tempted to think, you know, maybe I could take 4 or 5 months off? Maybe we could go on the cruise, or could go on the holiday, or just take it easy at home?
I have lots of holidays.
Right.
We try to take about 4 holidays a year. My wife is a full-time solicitor. She's a partner in the practice, and therefore she doesn't really want to take too many holidays at the moment. And so I'm happy with what we're doing. I think one of my best loves, main loves in life, is cricket. But if I was to watch cricket all of the time, I'd probably want a holiday.
You get fed up.
So I think you've just got to enjoy what you like, but take it in small doses, otherwise it becomes a chore. But fortunately for me, work's never been a chore.
Well, continued success with the group.
Thank you.
Very good to see you, Melvin. Thank
you
you for coming in. Melvin Sadofsky.